after this morning, I was listening to the recording of Jeffrey's teaching on Tuesday that I missed. And he was talking about the another way of doing the meditation on the bones, where you stack up the skeletons that you've had, from beginningless lives. And I think we can do similarly with the corpses, the bodies we've had. And you just imagine stacking them up. And when you do this quite slowly, as he recommended, you get this feeling, well, you may get several different feelings, one might be of disgust for the corpses. One might be of just asking yourself, how has this happened that I've taken one body after another? How has this come about? What is the cause of this? Yeah, and that will lead you into meditating on the second noble truth, true causes, which will lead you to investigate if those causes, ignorance, afflictions, and karma, can be eliminated or not, which will lead you to understand true cessation, which will lead you to engage in the true paths. Okay? So it works that way to push you right into an understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Okay? So that might be one way of reacting, kind of asking yourself, well, how has this happened? Which is a really good question, and we should definitely investigate this. Sometimes before we ask, how did this happen, what may arise in our mind is a feeling of sadness, like, what have I been doing? Since beginningless time, for what ultimate purpose has taking one body after another body after another body served? In other words, what's it gotten me? What has it led to? And we realized nothing except taking another body. Yeah. And so that may lead us then to say, how has this happened? Okay? So you may have different things come in your mind in different orders, but it's very good to kind of look at it in this way. And there may be also a feeling of sadness that arises, like, oh, I've had all these bodies, I've had all these lifetimes, nothing much has come out of them in the end. And then you think of your Buddha nature, your Tathagata Garbha, the potential to become a fully enlightened being. And then you think, oh, but there's that, and I haven't put my energy into that. I've taken one body after another and put my energy into getting what I want when I want it. Yeah? Into sense, pleasure, happiness, into reputation and approval and all this kind of stuff. In other words, into the 8 worldly concerns. Yeah? And so if you look at it that way, then that's going to lead you into an understanding of the 8 worldly concerns and a feeling of wanting to overcome them in this life, and hopefully a feeling of regret for having used our precious time in previous lives pursuing the 8 worldly concerns to no avail. And then that leads us to also understand the kind of negative karma that we've created pursuing the 8 worldly concerns. And that leads us into a wish to do purification and strong purification. Okay? So, it seems like I'm kind of going off into all sorts of areas. Well, I am. But, what I'm trying to get at is, you can start with one meditation, let's say on the bones or on the body, yeah, It doesn't have to be the one on the corpse, it could be the one on the insides of the body. But that meditation, as you go deeper in it, will lead you to think about other Lamrim meditations. Yeah, and so it'll tie in with the Four Noble Truths, or it'll tie in with meditating on the disadvantages of cyclic existence, or it'll tie in with the 8 worldly concerns, or it'll tie in with having a sense of regret and wanting to purify, or it'll tie in with wanting to understand what Buddha nature is and how to practice the path to actualize it. Okay? So one meditation, as you go deeper, may lead you into questioning other things. Okay? So you don't want it to go quickly, like boom, boom, boom. You know, really go deeply into something so you get some experience, and then see how that can take you into other things, and then use it all to really come out with a strong motivation of either renunciation or bodhicitta. Okay? And a strong determination to continue your Dharma practice, not only in your sessions, but in the break times. Because break times, we create a lot of karma, and so let's use our break times in a wise way. Okay? I was also thinking, you know, because Jeffrey mentioned the meditation on tears. You know, when you think of all of the tears that you've shed in this life and previous lives and so on. And, you know, some people may not be criers, at least this lifetime, but give yourself some space. You might have been in a previous lifetime, you know, and you might yet become one in this lifetime. Just as criers become non-criers, non-criers can become criers. But, you know, to really think of, you know, the tears that we've shed and the things that we've cried about. And sometimes when you think about the things that we've shed tears over, sometimes we realize we do shed tears over of joy or of happiness. But very often they're over sadness or regret, okay? And then, you know, we can look at the things that we have felt sad about in the past. And as Jeffrey proposed, sometimes having a sense of humor about them, yeah? But sometimes I see, when I think about the things that I've cried over in the past, I look and I go, what? You know, like, why was I so upset about that? You know? And it often comes back again to the 8 worldly concerns, to self-centered thought, and how those things make me shed tears, and that it has from beginningless lifetime. And so self-centered thought is an enemy that we really want to, you know, oppose. Or sometimes meditating on the tears makes you see the sadness of cyclic existence, you know, and can produce renunciation and compassion. Yeah. And he also made a comment about how, you know, tears can bring us back to experiences of trauma that we may have had in the past. And we have to, you know, each person judge themselves, evaluate themselves, how much they want to go into that, if they're prepared for it, and so on. We have to be a doctor to our own mind. But also I find sometimes, when I look at it that way, it's also, in some way, trauma becomes something mundane, something ordinary, in the sense that we've all experienced it. And we've all experienced it multiple times. And I think sometimes in our individual lives, why trauma becomes so traumatic is because there's often a feeling of no one else has ever experienced this. Yeah, this is an unusual experience that shouldn't be happening. But in another way of looking at it, all of our traumas are universal, aren't they? You know? They are very universal. If we think of beginningless lifetimes, you know, many rebirths, it's like we've had those traumas many times. Other beings have had those traumas many times. Other beings and ourselves have had traumas worse than those other times. And I just say this not to diminish the value of a trauma, but to give us another perspective so that we don't lock ourselves into creating a personal identity over our individual traumas, because that keeps us more locked into the trauma and its detrimental effects. Whereas if we see, oh, this is samsara, this is general samsaric experience that every living being has had. I'm not alone. Every living being has had this or worse. Yeah. And so then that brings us some feeling of empathy, some feeling of compassion, some internal expansiveness that unlocks us from our clinging to our own trauma, which we sometimes do. Yeah. So, you know, I'm just saying this as a way, you know, in your meditation, see, you know, how you can use the various understandings to really unlock different aspects of the Dharma and to release you from different kind of clinging and attachment and self-grasping and self-centeredness that maybe you've never dreamt before that you could be free of. And maybe you can be free of these things, you know, because that's what a broader perspective does. It takes us out of ourselves to see, you know, a bigger reality.